Welcome to SFL This Week, Season 24, Week 5 edition. We are here to recap your weekend, if you saw it, if you didn't see it, and everywhere in between. Cameron Irvine, Mike St. Green here with you. For some reason, I look more ghostly than normal. I promise you, I have some complexion. I don't know what's going on in here tonight. The screen is just too bright. Mike St. Green's personality, always just too bright. How you doing, Mike?
I'm doing good, Cam. Let's see. I don't know if I'm looking ghostly or not. But I don't think I'm quite as pale as you are. But I'm doing okay.
No, I don't. Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think you have that problem. Well, pretty great weekend. I think we learned a lot about some teams. I think some teams proved themselves. I think that we saw a lot of good fight from the maybe towards the bottom of the standings. And then we saw some teams continue to struggle. It felt like a good prove-it week, and I think a lot of teams delivered.
Yeah, I think we may have seen a shift in who's the best division this weekend. I mean, it traditionally has been the South. I mean, the South is still solid, no question about it. But man, the teams out west and balling, and we're going to see two of the better teams out west again tonight.
The only two undefeated teams in the SFL reside in the West Division. That is Washington and Vancouver, and I think they play each other in a couple of weeks, Mike. We might have to flex that thing to see what Washington and Vancouver can give us. We're going to talk a little bit later in the show about some of the new age high-flying offenses in the SFL and how we've seen some really interesting things come out of that. But all in all, Mike, I think that it's really nice to see these teams all looking different, right? We're seeing a lot more personality out of these clubs, and that's what I've appreciated so far in the first month.
Yeah, and that really was the goal. We know that was the goal, and what I like about it, we've seen a lot of imagination from a lot of different, coaches and front offices and things of that sort. Houston, for instance, I really like what Jason Peace does with our defense. I mean, he throws a lot of different looks at people, and I know it's an offensive subject, but but the creativity we've seen on offense is great. But also we see some guys, getting to let their hair down on defense as well.
Yeah, it is defensive too. We saw a team, I think it was maybe Fort Worth, that came out in a base nickel, and we saw a lot of that in the APF era, but they'd be throwing one coverage out there, and it's just like, oh my gosh, we're going to watch this all day. There's been a lot of diversity on defense too, so that's been fun. So, it's tough building a script this week. Where do we start? What do we talk about first? It's always a big deal who leads the show. Well, at the end of the day, we got to look out west, and we got to see probably the most surprising team in the SFL. They've never had a ton of success historically, and they are getting their moment right now. That is the Washington Trident, and that's where we go first. Washington hosting one-loss Houston, and early on, it was Tommy Utah, Johan Sutherland with the score in the first 2 minutes of the game. Washington takes a 7-0 lead, and then Josh Slapp, a rare fumble, coughs it up. Washington takes over. They get a field goal out of that. They go up 10-0. How about James Troll from 50? Cha-ching! 13-0 Washington. Got to give some love to the kickers on this show as well. Tommy Utah is picked off by Jason Peace here. He's now one interception away from tying the 4K23 linebacker record, Mike.
Yeah, Jason Peace, he's been an absolute beast for in the middle linebacker spot, being able to pick balls off pretty much at will, it seems like.
John Lakeman, he was 8 of 11 in the first half, played a pretty good game, throws a touchdown there to Greg Corky, 13-10. But Tommy Utah strikes back. That pass caught in the back of the end zone to give Washington a 20-10 lead. Now up 20-13, 3rd and 5. Houston just could not get off the field. Phil Koss down the middle to the 21-yard line. Pick it up 23-16, 3rd and long again, Mike. This was the story. Washington just converting almost every chance they got.
Yeah, it was very frustrating from the Houston point of view. Cam, the offensive line did a great job of protecting Utah in the pocket, and he found field costs continually in this ballgame.
And Christopher Dean put that one under wraps, and Washington takes care of Houston 30-16 to remain undefeated at 4-0. Tommy Utah continues to be a revelation. Talk about a new lease on life. And the ironic thing, Mike, is that the Louisiana Revolution, they had a pretty good squad. They were constantly in contention for the playoffs. It wasn't like they were a bad team, but it's almost like all these players. You talk about Brian Craven over in Pittsburgh, Tommy Utah in Washington, Dwayne Salmons in Denver, just to name a few. These guys are really showing up for their new squads here in season 24, and Tommy Utah may be the greatest example of that.
Yeah, it was very unfortunate to see, the Louisiana franchise go away, but they have always seemed to have a very solid roster over there. But for one reason or another, they did have a huge season a few seasons back, but in recent times they struggled to make the playoffs and things of that sort. But they've always been a solid team, and that now to see these guys disperse and go to different teams, and then we see Tommy Utah over here with Washington Trident. He has been, to me, the biggest acquisition of this offseason, because I think that acquisition has really solidified this team and this roster, and we're seeing the results of it with this undefeated start.
Yeah, and John Michael Sudduth, by the way, first touchdown in 10 months with Vancouver as well this weekend, another former Louisiana player. So Washington gets the win. Utah has an impressive day. They really handled things on third down. At one point, they were 10 of 15. I think they finished with 11 or 12 third down conversions. So they continue their undefeated reign. Houston drops their second game. But honestly, Mike, I don't know what your perspective is from as a Houston guy, but I think Houston played pretty well. They just could not get off the field on third down. John Lakeman had another strong outing.
Yeah, Houston played well. Not like I said, not really disappointed in the way that we played and executed. Greg Corky had a great game, as you mentioned. Lakeman, he played well. He had a turnover late that was kind of inconsequential as to the result of the game. I thought the defense played well. Downs 1, 2, and downs 1 and 2, but down third down, we absolutely could not get off the field. I've never seen a game to where a team is converting at that clip. But with all that being said, and obviously this is we played Mexico City, we played Albuquerque. I think Washington is they're the best team that we played so far this season in my book. From what I saw, they look extremely complete. The kicking game is solid. As we mentioned, Tommy Utah. They seem to have receivers running open, all over the field, pretty much from the first play with the huge touchdown that they had. The offensive line is great, and the defense is solid.
Yeah, hey, that's a pretty strong resume early on in the season. Losses to Albuquerque and Washington, and then you throw a game against Mexico City in there, and Houston's had quite the difficult start. But the Trident get the win. They are undefeated and continue to be so as that showdown with Vancouver looms. Okay.
And the other thing, real quick, Cam, that I just thought of, they have the most intimidating stadium in the league also.
Did you like the new Trident statue that they had up there?
Who was that? Namor or Aqua? You got some water god looking down on you the whole game. If that is not intimidating, to play them, then you got this scary looking Namor looking character that's looking down on you from four sides of the stadium. That's kind of intimidating.
Yeah, it was very cool indeed there in Washington. All right, let's move on to a big upset out more on the Eastern Coast, as this was Bossier City, also undefeated, trying to keep their undefeated season alive against Indianapolis. And early on, it was all Bossier City. Johnny Pickler to Vin Callia, but then Reggio De Niro from rookie Ethan Flowers ties the game at 7. Now we're tied at 10, and Johnny Pickler is picked off. Not sure if that was a timing play there, Mike, but he threw it right to him. Second interception of the day for Indianapolis is King Rashid. He takes it all the way back. Now 5 touchdowns on his career, 17-10 Indianapolis. Now early in the third quarter, Pickler trying to get it going, finds former Rambler Jeff Banfield.
Yeah, Johnny Pickley, he struggled with the turnover ball, but it was a nice pass and catch right there, finding Banfield.
This was a questionable call. Pickler to Garrison Blue. There's that white checkerboard on that white line in the back of the end zone that play was challenged and looked at, but it turned out not to be. Bossier City gets a field goal, and then this man, Jimmy Wint, starts to take over the ball game.
Yeah, Jimmy Wint had a huge game, Cam. 82 yards after catch. It was a career high.
Reggio De Niro with his second touchdown gives Indianapolis a 24-13 lead. Then just a couple of minutes later, Indy with the football. Ethan Flowers rolling around looking for someone to get open, and look who he finds. Jimmy Wint down the sideline. 82 yak yards, 175 in total for Jimmy Wint, and Indianapolis gets a surprising victory. Boy, did they need it, and another solid game from rookie Ethan Flowers. I really like how they have been easing him into the offense. Bossier City, a shocking defeat. Rob Noel, who was over 100 yards in each of the first three games, held under 75, so Indianapolis put a little bit more emphasis on Pickler, and that passing game was unable to deliver. Pretty big shocker as the Ramblers get to 2-2.
And we're on the same wavelength way too often, and we don't even know it, and we don't even talk about really things that we're going to, say from game to game behind the scenes. But my take on this game was that this was the surprise game of the week, result of the weekend for me. Bossier City, they came in, they were on a roll, undefeated. Indianapolis playing the rookie quarterback. But Johnny Pickler, which he has done from time to time, the turnover bug really haunted them in this game. I want to say 4 interceptions for Johnny in this game. But they had avoided that up until this point. With Rob Noel, I think he had another solid game. But, the turnovers really killed Bossier City in this game. But the rookie quarterback and Indianapolis that kind of, they haven't been playing back terribly, but we haven't seen this from them offensively. So that was a huge surprise to see Bossier City come in and pretty much get dominated as they did.
And with Indy, even though they're 2-2, they're right in the mix in that Central Division. The Central Division is kind of a mess. Denver could win it. Minnesota could win it. Indy could win it. There's a lot of opportunity right now in the Central, and the Ramblers put themselves squarely in that mix. A couple of weeks ago, I think me and you talked about, well, is it Minnesota or Denver in the Central? Well, maybe we should be talking about Indianapolis as a potential division winner. If they were to do that with a rookie quarterback, that would be pretty impressive.
Yeah, that would be huge. New ownership, rookie quarterback, that would be huge for them. And after four games, they're right there in the mix, as you mentioned.
And that big showdown between Indianapolis and Minnesota, the no love lost in that game. They play on Valentine's Day. That'll be a big one in the Central Division. Well, what's going on with the defending champs? We saw them last week. They had suffered a 3-point loss to Houston, a 16-13 slug it out Southern ball game. That's how we know and love these things. Well, they were right back at another one with Fort Worth this week, fresh off of a devastating, heartbreaking loss to Marcus Dunhill and the Carolina Skyhawks. And early on, it was all Mexico City. Ray Bentley, then Amelia Rose, a rare stoink off the left upright. Mexico City's up 10-0, and they have all the momentum. Enter into the chat Dexter Jackson, the former Mexico City Aztec, apparently told Mexico City, I don't think you got what it takes to win a title. Mexico City goes out, wins a title, leaves Dexter Jackson behind. He got the last laugh today with that interception. Then Stephen Hacker, Mike St. Green, watch the showboat right here. Hacker loses, almost went out of bounds, scored anyway. My goodness, what are you doing? These divas out here are just, they're crazy, Mike. Hand off to Jet Zero, looking for his first touchdown of the season. Dragged down at the goal line. This was a huge play to keep Mexico City in it, because the next play, they got to stop.
And look, Ashley Jackson had a diva wide receiver show this weekend. Stephen Hacker, where were you after a play like that? You definitely should have been on that show.
There's a look at Bacon, and he's unable to get in. Evan Miller with that stop, and Hey, we showed Amelia Rose's miss. We might as well show her make two. 48-yard field goal makes it 16-10. 6:50 to go. Mexico City still in this thing, but Jordan Sipe down the stretch is picked off by Dexter Jackson. What a play by DJ 54. 19-10. The Toros take down the Mexico City Aztecs. The defending champs lose 2 games in a row for the first time in nearly a year. And back-to-back weeks, the Aztecs only managed to get 1 touchdown on the board. What did you take from this game? Another Southern slugfest.
Typical South Division, type of game. But now, if you're Mexico City, you have to ask yourself, what's going on with this offense at this point. Houston solid defense, Fort Worth solid defense. Dexter Jackson played, lights out against his former team, and that's typically, what guys like to do. They like, they're motivated to do something great against their former club, but not sure what to say about Mexico City at this point. Last season they played a lot of tight games and that they came out on the other side of. But a couple of seasons ago, I can remember this offense struggling, and they struggle win-loss, well as well. So I don't know. Maybe they're gonna need to go back to the drawing board about some things and see what they can get figured out. But 10 points this week, 13 the week before. That's not going to be good enough to consistently win in this league.
Yeah, Mike, I think it proves that no game plan is undefeated, right? I mean, I think if you're the defending champs, you're probably thinking to yourself as the season's going along, look, we know what we do. We know how we do it. This is who we are. And then a couple of weeks go by and you realize just because it worked at the end of last season doesn't necessarily mean it's working now. And they're going to have to dig into that bag, that plan C, plan D, plan E bag, because before you know it, you could end up kind of sluggish, kind of questioning your identity, and it's too late.
Yeah. One thing I figured out about this league, Cam, these guys are grinding every week, offensively and defensively, to figure out how to beat you. And if they have the personnel and the roster to do that, they most of these guys are smart enough to figure it out. And it's tough to stay on top of this league. And Mexico City is finding out, hey, once you climb that mountain, plant that flag, it's 24 other teams that's behind you that's trying to get to that same point that you are.
To the 19th annual Corbin Cup we go. I really shouldn't call it annual. I don't know what you'd call it. But the 19th edition of the Corbin Cup saw Charleston break out to a 14-0 lead before an unlikely hero here, Tony Zoma, gets involved in the Carolina offense on a fullback seam out of the backfield, and then Marcus Dunhill gets things moving. Chris Curtis in the open field for the touchdown. Chase Earl in the open field for the score. 14-7, Charleston's lead cut. We fast forward to late in the fourth quarter. This is a 4th and 3 draw. Carolina, they're 3-1 coming into this game, Mike, but they get into these offensive slumps, and it really hurts them. They did nothing in the second half.
Yeah, the offense actually had been struggling all the way up until last Monday night, and we saw them kind of struggle again this past weekend.
That third down play when Carolina needed to get off the field keeps Charleston on the field. The Predators previously 0-4, trying to get their first win, and Iman Kopech continues to be a revelation for this Charleston offense. Another example of, a split being good for both sides, as John Lakeman and Iman Kopech are enjoying better seasons. Marcus Dunhill late in this one finds a wide open Chris Curtis, makes it 24-14. So Carolina's not out of this thing yet. The Skyhawks trying to make a comeback late. Dunhill excited about that, but not excited about this one. Throws the interception. Leo Morris takes it away, and Charleston gets their first win of the season, and it happens against their rivals, 24-14. That had to feel good for Charleston, who had been close, but just had not been able to nail down a victory. They're one of these teams, Mike, at 0-4 with a Florida team that's got some question marks. They pick up a victory against a divisional opponent. I don't know that Charleston's totally out of this thing yet, even after the rough early start to this season. Yeah,
they played extremely well last weekend, but happened to come up on losing into that ball game. Amon Kopech played well in that game. Also, another put up another 300-yard performance in this game. No turnovers. He's really seeming to settle into that uh, starting quarterback role that he kind of seemed like they didn't. They were kind of adjusting to his skill set early on, but the last couple of games he's been absolutely on fire. And yeah, this is the team made the playoffs last season. You do not. Based on the past couple of weeks, you don't want to play this team, and I think they're very capable of coming out of this 1-4 hole that they dug for themselves.
I'm shocked to be saying this here again in front of all of you, but unfortunately, last night the SFL lost another member of its family. Carolina's Abari Aman England, actual first name Erdis. Erdis Abari Aman, his actual name, passed away at the age of 49. Just a tragic loss. Officially February 1st. It's just a shame. It's not right to be growing numb to these situations. It's the fifth person that we've lost in the last 5 years in the SFL, and it's just absolutely tragic. We feel so bad for the Carolina Skyhawks family, for Ibari Aman's family, and from everyone here in the SFL community, an outpouring of support, for the family and for this team. They are the fifth team in the SFL, along with Mexico City, Vancouver, Atlanta, and Louisiana, to lose a member of their community while they were still active and involved in the league. That's the most shocking part. I wanted to read an excerpt from the general manager of the team, Skippy Curtis. As a teammate, he wanted to do anything and everything he could to help out. Whenever asked if he wanted to make a change to his player or getting his opinion on what he thought this idea or that was, his response was always the same: anything I can do to help our team get better. He was a joy to have in the locker room. He fit in like he was always meant to be there. His passion for our games insurmountable. His devotion to us unwavering. Once a Skyhawk, always a Skyhawk. He was selected by Skippy Curtis and the rest of the Carolina front office as the 37th pick in the season 20 draft. Mike, it's just a shame.
Yeah, Cam, it's always unfortunate to receive this type of news from anyone in this league, to hear this type of thing. But what I do take away from it is that it's good to have a community such as this, to that we can lean on one another and help one another heal and support one another, including Abari and his family. I'm pretty sure if any way that anybody can reach out and do that, I'm pretty sure someone will. But mostly to have each other to be able to lean on, and Carolina to have a locker room where they can lean on one another and support one another in this sad time in the SFL and the Carolina Skyhawk organization.
According to a family friend who got in touch with Carolina's ownership, they said that Erdis never stopped talking about the SFL, and as the guy that owns and operates this league, to hear of a story of an individual that won't stop talking about the SFL, but yet is a story that I didn't even know existed, right? That this guy never stopped talking about it, is so humbling and heartwarming to hear, because that is happening all over this country, all over this world. People are talking about these games, these wins, these losses, these moments in time, and we don't realize the impact that we are making on individuals and that they are making on us. It is too bad to not have him in the league anymore. I'm sure he will continue to play for Carolina as long as he continues to play for Carolina, and who knows what's going to happen in the next moments for Aman England's avatar and his legacy in the SFL. He will be sorely missed.
Yeah, no doubt, Cam. And like that, thoughts and prayers go out to him, his family, and and the Carolina Skyhawks.
So, with that said, let's move on to some of the uglier results of the week. Some blowouts to talk about. First, let's talk about Albuquerque and Lexington. It was ugly, but it sure was entertaining. 10 total turnovers. There were 28 possessions in this football game, and Albuquerque eventually was able to pull away from Lexington, even though the Miners did the best they could to stay in this one. But Albuquerque improves to 4-1. Lexington falls to 3-2, and the Adams proved once again. I mean, imagine, Mike, they were up 21-0 on Queen City. They could easily be 5-0 right now without that collapse.
Yeah, you're talking about offenses and the creativity. Albuquerque, they strike me as one of those teams extremely difficult to prepare for. They have a lot of weapons. The running game is not, totally, 100% probably up to par the way that they would want it, but they have enough diversity and they. What I like about them, they seem to know how to scheme their wide receivers and playmakers open, so they're able to make plays, and that's what we see the result of. We see these guys, putting up a lot of points. They're difficult to contain. K. Marion, the top receiver in the league right now. So Albuquerque, they're going to be tough to deal with pretty much the rest of the season.
Let's talk about Queen City. I am dumbfounded by this team. I don't understand this team. They are down 21-0 to Albuquerque. They were getting blown out the previous week by Bossier City. They lost that game 52-3, right? So they had been outscored 73-3. Then in the second half against Albuquerque, a team that has not lost to anyone else, they score 24 unanswered points, win the game, and then they go to Vancouver and get blanked. 47-0. Makes sense of this to me, Mike.
Well, they are definitely the most Jekyll and Hyde team in the league right now. Even in the wins that they've had, and in particular the one that they came back and beat Albuquerque. We know what Queen City did last season. We're kind of in at least I am in a wait and see mode. They're in a prove it mode. To me, I want to see them do the things that they've done in a couple of games this season on a more consistent basis. But being shut out, being blown out a couple of times, that's the more surprising thing after they have actually shown a pulse. They've shown that, hey, we are capable of winning some games and causing some teams some problems. But now, I guess the bigger question is a testament of the inconsistency of Queen City, or this is a statement saying, hey, Vancouver's back and they're really, really good right now.
Yeah, and focusing on Vancouver, Christian Brown, a sensational game. Brett Killian, talk about a resurgence. I think that he has a new weight lifted off his shoulders with DR Sim not playing wide receiver anymore. I mean, the guy is going nuts. He had 190 and a touchdown this week in this offense that is balanced but is passing oriented. They're running a lot of shotgun, a lot of empty looks. Christian Brown, not really a threat to run, but he is a threat to distribute the ball to tons of weapons. Vancouver's got a lot of talent, and it looks like they are finally able to capitalize on that talent with the revelations in playbook scheming.
Well, I'm going to take a little issue with the Christian Brown not able to run. I think he is a threat to run. I think that's part of what makes them a little bit more dangerous in the passing game, because I do remember last season, I want to say when we played Vancouver, Christian Brown, a little quarterback sneak that they have in there for him.
Yeah, true.
He definitely will take off on you and able to move the chain. So I think that is a plus for them, but he's more than capable of throwing the rock. We've seen that over 400 yards passing in this game. The running game with Ike McBride and Suda Nakai, they're great. And as you mentioned, Brett Killian, I mean, and the defense, it seems like those same guys have been over there for many, many, many seasons, and they're super talented and super balanced right now.
They really have it all, and I don't think that when you look at the West Division coming into the season, you kind of teased it earlier, but I don't think Arizona would have thought that they would be in third, not looking up at Sin City, but instead looking up at Washington and Vancouver, and obviously a big game tonight with the Samurai and the Scorpions because, Sin City can get right back in the mix as well with a big win this evening. So to your point about the West Division, we'll talk about LA here in just a minute as well, but the West Division, a very productive Week 5 so far.
Yeah, and we never would have predicted, hey, Washington and Vancouver at top, and Sin City in Arizona in the middle towards the bottom. We never would have predicted that coming in. You would have definitely needed a crystal ball, accurate crystal ball to predict that one for sure.
All right, why don't we go to Los Angeles then? They beat Oklahoma City 26-3. It looked like they were just kind of going through the motions. They did play very well. Darius Iniguez had over 125 yards on the ground. Sully Richardson didn't have to do much. I think he finished 10 of 13 passing. They got back to that ground game that got them the win a couple of weeks ago. In Oklahoma City, we obviously know is very limited. They did look a little better this week. They played a pretty good defensive scheme against Los Angeles. They did suffer an injury, which, that's really going to hurt a team like Oklahoma City. They hung around, but LA didn't look too frightened, and they improved to 2-3.
Yeah, they basically took care of business. We know the story. I don't want to be, totally dismissive of Oklahoma City, but they're undermanned. Obviously, they're new franchise. They're growing. I'm looking forward to see what Michael Irvine can turn that thing into over there, but as for now, they just don't have enough horses to compete, and LA did what they were supposed to do. They took care of business and beating a lesser opponent.
Finally, Nashville blanked by Florida. The tempo fall to 0-5. Florida was without a fresh game plan. They were also without their starting quarterback, Ron Cochran. The backup didn't play exceptional, but he didn't cost them the game, and it really wasn't too difficult on them because Florida stuck to their game in the flats, and it paid off for them. Art Vandelay nearly caused them more headaches in the game with his 9 carries, but Florida survived, and they got a very impressive 23-0 victory over Nashville. The tempo only threw twice in the first half, most of that because they could not string drives together, and they just didn't have the ball much. Florida dominated this game in time of possession and made quick work of the still winless tempo.
Yeah, I was watching this game early on, Cam, and I saw Art Vandelay with an early carry, and I immediately got anxiety for these guys. I'm like, well, what happens if he goes over 10 carries again? Does it go to 4 games that they are not able to implement a game plan? I wasn't sure, but I'm like, man, I hope these guys don't cut it close again. But this game was a true head scratcher for me. No Ron Cochran out, he's out, and no, new game plan that they could implement for this game. And Nashville, they don't really put up a fight on defense, and they don't score anything. So it was just kind of a head scratcher for me. And as of, now it makes me question after the season that Nashville had last season and their inaugural season in the league. It just makes me wonder what's going on in the tempo front office and coaching room right now.
Well, remember, Nashville started 5-1 last season. They are now 1-10 since then.
Wow.
Nashville, and their only win against Canton, who made the championship game last season. So, it's a shocker. To a couple of teams winless that are struggling to find the rhythm, to a couple of teams with losing records putting up a fight. We go over to Chicago, where the Chicago Warriors look at type attack, getting out of the pocket. This was about as nutty of a game plan as you can have, and Chicago was killing it early on. This is the opening drive, 2 minutes into the game, type attack with a scramble, looking them in the pocket, looking for receivers, finds his intended target. That's T to Queen, 1st and goal to the 5-yard line. And then a brilliant call here out of the shotgun. Baltimore not expecting it. They bring the pressure from the outside, and Ballou Scott runs right into the end zone for the score. Chicago takes a 7-0 lead, but Baltimore, they got dogs too. That pass caught by Mac Chima from Jack Wigmore. Tie game at 7. They bounce right back. 1st and goal, 14-10. Chicago fires into the end zone, picked off by Young Vaught. That's the story of Chicago's season. They're moving the football, but these turnovers are just killing them.
Yeah, the turnovers, the sacks, and whatever you could think of have been detrimental to the Chicago offense all season long. Opportunity to go up 3 scores right there, and Young Vaught picks them off in the end zone.
Jack Wigmore comes right back to Benji Matson, and Baltimore takes the lead just before the half. A brilliant 2-minute drive where they had no timeouts, scored anyway. 24-20 Baltimore. You can't leave that dude that wide open. Mac Chima all the way down to the 5-yard line with 6 minutes to go. Chicago needs to hold to a field goal as Chima gets up and shows the crowd what they wish they had. 3rd down and goal. Under 5 to go. Wigmore changing the play. This is the critical moment of the game for Chicago. Get off the field and give yourself a chance. And Warren Murray just across the goal line makes it happen. 31-20. Now let's go to Pittsburgh, where the Pittsburgh Riverhogs were taking on the Denver Nightwings. Mike, every time Pittsburgh answered the call, Denver answered right back. It was a remarkable game to watch as Bailey O'Shaughnessy scored this bounce back.
Yeah, this was the Denver team that we expected to see, and early on in the season. A lot of people predicted them that they were going to, take a step forward, and they showed a lot in this game against Pittsburgh on the road.
In the 3rd quarter, BB Belitz fighting through traffic. What a great season he's having. Gets the touchdown, makes it 17-14. Pittsburgh dug themselves a little bit of a hole in the 2nd quarter. They're fighting back. Logan Keel on the return. Maybe Pittsburgh can force a fumble, get the momentum back, but no, it's Denver 100 yards away. Look at him turn on the speed boost. They strike again.
Yeah, Logan Keel with a huge return right here, and every time it seems like Pittsburgh were trying to get close and needed to come up with a stop, the Nightwings were able to answer whatever challenge that Pittsburgh gave them.
Kane Vasquez, interception. Pittsburgh going the other way. The Riverhogs are right back in this thing. A pick six, 24-21 at the end of the 3rd quarter. 3rd down and inches. Here's a chance for Pittsburgh to get off the field on the next possession, and it's former Louisiana running back Dwayne Salmons. G.O.N.E. gone.
Yeah, Dwayne Salmons had a huge game as well. This Denver Nightwings team, they answered the call every chance they had in this ball game.
They win it 31-21. Denver is a relentless running team. Chicago, a relentless passing offense. You've got Baltimore with their balanced attack. You have Pittsburgh sort of with this air raid style, but they still have the ability to run the football quite well with BB Belitz in the trenches. He's a powerful back. This underscores what we were talking about at the beginning of the broadcast, Mike. Just all the diversity out there in the SFL right now makes for a very fun product to watch.
Yeah, and when I was thinking when we saw Mac Chima, he had a big game in Baltimore as well in that victory. We're seeing this in games around the league. We saw Phil Koff have a big game. We saw, even in that game, Greg Corky had a solid game, and we've seen big games, throughout the weekend. And I think that had been missing over the past couple of seasons. It's kind of nice to see superstar performances from players that we had come accustomed to seeing superstar performances from, and I think that's made the league fun. As you mentioned, particularly on the offensive side of the ball this season, we've seen the defenses, a lot of them over the past few seasons. We've seen the sack totals go up and things of that sort, and it's nice to see the star performances come back to the league.
And on that note, Mike St. Green's Week 5 spectaculars are.
Wow, we just had the best uniform game of the week, and it's always funny to me when I say, man, who's going to be the spectacular? Who wore it best for the week? And I usually, obviously, you have to win, and I'm like, oh man, if this team wins, they're going to get it. But the winner was coming out of that Chicago and Baltimore game. Either way, I thought they both looked great. Played great for the most part. Chicago came up short, but Baltimore, man, they look like the former champions that they are, and they look great this weekend. So they definitely wore it best this weekend. So they get my who wears it best.
Baltimore had that black and white look a couple weeks ago as well, and that was pretty sharp too with all the red accessories. Charleston pulled out a true Orca look this week with the black and white. You like that?
I did. I felt like it maybe the striping didn't jump out at me, enough, but because they typically go with a lot of striping, I think maybe a little bit too much striping for my liking, but they were definitely in contention. I saw you, Charleston. I was watching you. I was definitely looking at you.
How about your spectacular players this week?
Man, we have a lot to talk about, Cam. Let me just go to the notepad here. Jimmy Went, we talked about him, 175 yards receiving. And the great thing about that, only on 5 receptions, he was fantastic. Tommy Utah against Houston, he was great, 367 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. He had a couple of huge rushing attempts on 3rd down and kept the sticks moving for them and enabled them to beat Houston. But Iman Kopak, I mean, he had a great performance last week in a loss, but I can't ignore him this week. 303 yards, 3 touchdowns, no turnovers again. Iman Kopak, he gets my spectacular player of the week.
He was and has been excellent for the now surging Charleston Predators. It's time for everybody's favorite moment of the week. It's Ron Haynes and his Haynes Vision as we get ready for the Sin City Samurai and the Arizona Scorpions and that kickoff tonight. So here we go. We start with the Sin City Samurai, and we start with Scar Patterson, who has been struggling, Mike. They need a big game out of him. I don't think they're going to be able to run all over Arizona. They're going to have he's got to deliver.
Yeah, Scar, he's going to definitely have to come through this week, Cam. But typically, when this Sin City, when they rely on him, too much, it doesn't seem to work out. But he sooner or later is going to step up and make the plays to get a W.
Al Dillapre has turned into their number one weapon easily in the pass game. 84 yards on 7 catches last week. He was a former Sioux Falls Sparrow, and he's really been making plays for them. How about Talon Steele at tight end? 3 catches for 30 yards last week. He's a defensive spreader, Mike. He really opens things up for everybody on the team.
Yeah, Talon Steele, he's been around this league for a long time. He's paid his dues, and now he's really becoming a weapon for Sin City.
By the way, Mark Lopez says Christian Brown overlooked again. Shake my head. So he's got a bone to pick with you. Anyway, back to Sin City. Logan Lee, 32 yards on 10 carries against Washington. What has happened to Logan Lee? They need a big game out of him tonight.
Yeah, this team typically goes as Logan Lee goes, and if Arizona are able to ball him up, they're going to more than likely come away with a W. If he has a solid game, Sin City is going to definitely have a shot.
He's the key. Ron Haynes with the Asian-inspired transition wipes this week. I'm loving it. Mark Gronick, 14 tackles last week. He has been solid. This Sin City defense has been quite good. It's just that they're losing a lot of these low-scoring ball games. That's Gronick, and then Kanye Rockefeller, always solid. One of the best players in SFL history.
Yeah, Kanye Rockefeller been in the league, 700 years or something like that, but he's been around a long time. He's been a solid player for a long time. Great, tackle numbers last week, but hadn't heard a lot from Kanye for the first part of the season. We're going to see if he can make some plays tonight.
And the Garys are back, man. 1.5 sacks last week. Gary Burney in the backfield. Gary Clem as well on this defense. That has been a big help for the Samurai. They're trying to get to 2-3 as they're trying to hold Arizona down to 2-2 and get themselves back in the West. Here are all of the headliners that Sin City's going to have to worry about tonight. Arizona featured with Ashley Jackson. She's been pretty efficient, but the turnovers are causing teams to hang around in this game. Against Nashville last week, 229 yards and a score.
Yeah, solid performance last week, but that's typical with Arizona. If Ashley Jackson is able to keep the interception total down, Arizona is going to be a tough team to beat.
Yayo Montana had 4 touchdowns or 4 receptions and a touchdown last week. You know, this wide receiving core for Arizona is pretty interesting. They're really balanced. Anybody could beat you on any given day. It does kind of remind me of Houston a little bit, but DJ Moses, the second in the backfield, always a threat with Brad Jones. It's a great 1-2 punch over there, and don't forget about Bismarck Wright either.
Yeah, I was going to say you got the 1-2 punch in the halfback spot, but the fullback, Bismarck Wright, he's great as well. Either one of those guys can hurt you, especially in the short yard game.
Brad Jones, 13 carries, 61 yards last week. You can see Bismarck right before. Look at him get that block, boom, right there at the 3-yard line on Tigga Clay to get Brad Wright the score. Number 23, number 24, and number 25 in the backfield. Always a challenge with Arizona, but Brad Jones has been big time. And actually, Tigga Clay got hurt on the play that Bismarck Wright blocked him down. Sean Moore, the big dog, with 3 TFLs last week. He's always barking.
Yeah, Sean Moore's been around for a long time, Cam. We're accustomed to seeing this guy make plays pretty much every week. He came through the big sack right there.
And Arizona hurt switch thumper on that play as well. Adam Wiseman, an underrated signing in the offseason to replace Nathaniel Diggs. 4 TFLs last week.
Yeah, Arizona, they seem to always come up with a surprise signing with a guy that's, a veteran in this league that's been in other places. Adam Wiseman is a huge pickup for them.
And finally, you can't sleep on the defensive front. Hunter Norwood, and company, but D.D. Sachs is your guy. 1 sack last week, a couple tackles, big time in the backfield. Sin City wants to make sure that they keep Scar Patterson upright because Sin City does not like being in 2nd and 3rd and long situations.
Yeah, no doubt about it. D.D. Sachs been around a long time. Another veteran pickup that Arizona made a couple of seasons ago, and he's paid dividends for them since he's been on that roster.
Well, Carolina screwed you last week. Almost had the pick correct. Now it's time for you to make your selection. Sin City and Arizona tonight. Arizona is the favorite. They have started at least 3-1 or better each of the last 5 seasons. Sin City has really been struggling, but we know they have the talent. It's glow up night in Arizona. They got the neon or the neon turquoise for Scorpions being under the black light. So, that's always a big game in Arizona in prime time. Stadium's going to be rocking. Who you got?
Well, first of all, let me do a little personal housekeeping, Cam, because I don't want all those people in Vancouver mad at me. I did have Christian Brown on my list. I don't want him to go unmentioned. 426 yards, 3 TDs for Christian Brown, but Amon Kopech beat him out this week for my spectacular of the week. So hey, don't be too mad at me, Vancouver. He was on my list. I didn't get him in there. But
Kopech did beat a 3-1 team.
Right.
And you could say the same thing about Vancouver. Isn't that weird? Isn't that weird that we think about Carolina in a totally different way than we think about Queen City, but they did have the same record coming into the week. So what do I know?
Yeah, no doubt. But this is going to be an interesting matchup, Cam. The defensive matchup is going to favor Sin City, obviously, because that offense can struggle, especially from the passing side of things. I know Arizona, like they definitely defensive minded. Eddie will tell you that at any point that he loves to play defense, but I think they are going to have to put some distance between them to win this game, and I think they're going to be capable of doing that. As long as Ashley doesn't turn it over, I think I'm going to lean towards Arizona in this one. Obviously, if I'm saying they're going to have to score a little bit to win it, let's go with 24-14 Arizona for the victory tonight to get me back to 500.
I think both teams would feel pretty uneasy being down by multiple scores in this game if it came to it with the way that their offenses have been performing. I give the slight edge to maybe a little bit more explosivity out of Arizona. Buchanan Simons has been playing well for them. Of course, Montana and Will Todd and company over there in Arizona. So we'll have to see. We got kickoff coming up here in a little bit. We'll see you all shortly. Charles Doherty, myself, and our stats crew are with you. Chris Curtis and Tyler Falk have the night off, and week 6 just around the corner in the SFL. Thanks for sticking around and watching us break down the week that was here in week 5. Sin City, Arizona coming up. Say again?
Time flew this week, and what did the time go? It's like, man, it's already done.
It really did. It's already done. So we're ready to go out west. Mike, any last words for the people?
I was just saying, man, great to be here. Like I said, I was having a great time this week. The time seemed to, just flew by, and man, looking forward to seeing the game tonight, and look forward to seeing everybody again next week.
We miss you already, 29. This has been SFL This Week, and we'll see you next week.